Hi, so I finally managed to make this map editor tutorial you guys asked me about. In the following tutorial I will create a multiplayer map from scratch and show you all the steps till publishing it to the Steam Workshop. This guide will not cover anything about making single player mission scripting or conquest mode. I just never made a single player mission, so I can't really teach you anything about that. To start making your map, go to your Steam library and click on Gates of Hell, then hit on the play button. Now a menu will pop up and you select editor. This menu won't show up if you start the game through a desktop shortcut. Once the editor loaded up, go to the top right corner and create a new map. Now choose your map size. I would go with at least 400 for one side. Like you can do like 400 x 200 if you want to have some sort of lane or so. I kinda prefer bigger maps because they just play better, but they are also a lot more work, sadly. Please note that in this video you can see in the bottom left corner which keys I'm currently pressing. The map editor features a couple interaction menus. You can switch between them by hitting the numerized F buttons like F1, F2 and stuff. If you switch to F1 menu, you control units and stuff here. It basically simulates in-game overlay and controls. This is useful if you want to test something on your map without the need to leave the editor and load up some map in-game. The F2 menu will be your main place to stay while building your map. You can do the whole building process in here. What each section means will be explained on the go in this video. F3 contains the mission editor. Here we'll set up battle zone, sound effects, weather and everything else mission related. Now let's start creating the map. I usually start my maps by choosing some color and place some markings on the map. I always mark the middle point of the map and the spawns of each team. Then when it comes to level building, I build around these spots so everything is kinda balanced. By the way, you can center the camera on the map by hitting Ctrl 0 at the same time. If you want to get rid of the color later, you put now. Set the sliders all to 127, that's the eraser or just a neutral color. Once I finish the layout, I'm gonna switch over to the height tab. Here I'm gonna check fixed height and type in my desired altitude. By selecting fixed height, you will draw an even surface at a certain level. This is useful for basic mapping at the start, because it's easier to plan like that and kinda get an overview. If you uncheck fixed height, you will draw more natural looking elevations. Now I decrease the height and draw the riverbed with it. After I finish that, I will set the water altitude just a little bit higher than that. If you make too deep water, units won't be able to go through it, and at some depths not only tanks will sink but also infantry won't be able to swim through it anymore. Now it's a good time to save your map for the first time. If you build a multiplayer map, select multi and type in your map name. To flatten out edgy looking polygons on the map, hold down shift and left click while you're in the heights tool. After creating some basic layout with the heights tool, we can give our map a basic texture. I personally draw one texture over the whole map in the beginning. Later in the building process I'm gonna add more textures when needed. Otherwise you will have to fumble around with it a lot and this can really get frustrating. So hit add in the bottom right corner to create a new texture. As you see, there are two windows. You can add a texture to them by clicking on the image. The left one is left click and the other one is right click. These two textures will have a smooth transition between them, but only these two. If you touch these textures with other texture set, it will look like this. So I really recommend you to use just one base texture and leave it the left click texture always the same. If you want other textures, just change the right click textures. But you will see it a couple times during this tutorial, so don't worry. Now let's add some terrains. Terrains are very important for the map. They will change the AI behavior, sound effects and stuff, so footsteps will sound different or water splashes only occur on terrain that's also set to water. Again, usually I do this at the very end of my map making process, but for tutorial purpose now it should be the right time. First I'm gonna add grass terrain to all the grass area of the map. After that I add some sand terrain and in the end water terrain where the river will be. Let's have a look on how the effects changed. Please note that vehicles will prefer terrains that set to road and they will be also able to drive faster on them, or infantry will walk slower on terrain which is muddy, for example. Now I want to fill the riverbed with water, so let's go to the entity browser and go to landscape and open the water folder. In here we got different types of water objects. While you are in F2 mode and have no weather active, the water will mostly look like shitty and dark. This will change once we're doing the mission file and add some weather effect, so don't worry about that for now. Now we got the matched altitude of the water with our set water altitude and the heights tool, which was 85 I think. You can either hold down A and move the object to change its height, but for water especially I'd like to just type in the needed height in the set axis. If the water doesn't match the set height, units will swim above or below the water and also splashes will look strange. After placing down the river, rework the coastline and flatten out the edgy looking parts. The middle point of the map will be a little island, as you can see. To make it look more natural, I'm going back to the heights tool and uncheck fixed height. Now I'll add some random elevation and flatten it out afterwards. As you can see now, I'll add a new texture section and change the right click input. This way I'll add some variation to the ground on this island. Just be careful and try not to hit the texture or not transitioning with it. The grass tool will allow you to draw grass like you're drawing textures on the map. To make it look better, I recommend you to use a mix of different grass types to make it look more natural. So, since this is gonna be the middle point of the map and also the main flag, there should be some cover. Let's add some rocks. When I start placing objects, I usually first place down all variations of something and then I'll work with rearranging these assets. How to move objects and rotate them in a specific way is displayed right now. You can copy-paste stuff just like in any other Windows application with Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. In the top right corner you can also check the rotation lock. This will limit the rotations to your exact degrees. This comes in handy if you are building some city or something. After finishing the rock placement, I'm gonna add some trees and bushes to the island. You can change the look of objects by choosing other variations in the text mod drop down menu. Using text mod, you can achieve a wide variety of styles with just a couple of different objects. Most objects feature also winter textures, so you will really need them when creating a winter map. You can also just set the season to winter, this way objects will automatically use winter text mods when you place them on the map, but it won't work on all objects, so I usually don't use this function. Let's talk about cut entity stuff now. Cut entity objects belong to everything that will be underground. So I'm talking here about trenches, shell holes and stuff like that. When you place this stuff it will look strange at the beginning. That's because trenches and stuff will be displayed correctly only if you are in mission editing, so in F3 mode. I guess this should spare some resources, I don't really know why it's like this. But if you asked yourself before why your trenches look like shit, that's why. So don't worry, you did nothing wrong, it has to look like this. I would recommend you to place down trenches first, and if you plan to add shell holes to your map, place the shell holes at the end. Because they will deform when you change heights and add stuff close to them, and it will look very strange afterwards. When it comes to placing down buildings and stuff that consists of more than one part, you have the option to edit the object. For example, I want to make this church look like it got hit by some artillery shells. Now you gotta scroll down and find the structure parts. Here you can unselect some stuff and parts of the building will disappear. Usually when I make a building look destroyed, I'll add some rubble to it as a texture. First I'm gonna create some little hills which will be like the debris from the ruin. It can happen that the object will move due to changing the map height below it. To prevent that from happening, you can set constraint to none. Constraint will level the object automatically to a predefined height like water level and so on. Now after I made the height and texture, I'll add some shell holes. As you see, they are also not displayed correctly at the moment. And the last thing for this church will be some stamps. Stamps are one of my favorite tools for map building. You can add nice details and also cover up mistakes you made during texturing with them. You should really make use of these stamps. They have a big impact on how the map will look in the end. And with the new Call to Arms gem engine version, you are also now able to change the size of the stamps, which was not possible in Man of War. Stamps also have different text mods, which will sometimes create a whole new stamp, so it's worth having a look at the different versions. Now I'll make myself a forest template out of some trees, which I then just copy paste to make some forest ambience. After that I give the forest floor its own texture and finish it with some stamps. So, once you're done building your map, we need to make it playable. I prefer to spare time and just go the easiest way. Since I made Frontlines maps for Man of War, I know what a struggle it can be to make multiplayer maps. Making Frontlines is a pain in the ass, trust me. Just go with battle zones for the beginning. If you still want to learn how to create flag spawn points and stuff, I will link other guides and tutorials in the description. I really don't need to repeat that stuff all over again. To go the easy way, press F3 and load up a map from the game that's vanilla. Once you've finished loading the map, zoom out and select everything. Now hit Ctrl C to copy everything. Make sure you load up a map with the same player count as you want for your map to have. Now press F2 and load up your map. Once back on your map, hit F3 again and paste everything with Ctrl V. Now rearrange the flags and spawn points. The spawn points are the little red arrows, by the way. Just make sure the spawn points you place are from the same team on each side. You can check that by scrolling down. Now place the spawn points in your desired position. Now, before we are going to make the capture zones, I want to show you the map borders. You can find them by going into F2 mode and click on the camera symbol. Now check the show map borders. These lines will set the limits where units can go, where the camera can go and where the map is ending. The green and yellow line are connected. I would always place the green line on the border of the map. This way, when you're in-game, a fog will cover the borders of your map. And so it won't lag total shit when playing. You can only edit the borders when you've auto-selected at the top right menu. Here you can also set the camera angles and distances, so what's the closest and how far you can zoom out on the map when playing. I personally always display the map borders while map building, so I know where I can just play some random stuff, which is just in the background, and where the actual gameplay is happening. Okay, now let's set up the capture zones. Just draw the flags where your zone will be. Each flag will be connected to a capture zone. The capture zone can't be copied over, so we make them by ourselves. To make a new zone, click on the circle in F3 mode. And here you need to press new poly. Call the poly attached to flag A, F1, and for flag B, F2, and so on. Grab the poly at the corners to create the shape it has to have. You can add new corners by clicking add on the right side and clicking on the poly border. It's really annoying to make these zones, but maybe I'm just too dumb to make it correct. If you know how it's easier, leave me a comment. Repeat this process to all of your flags and we are ready for our first playtest. Okay, everything works so far, now we just need to make the map a little bit more beautiful. Load up the map in F3 mode and hit F6 to open the weather menu. Now choose a good looking weather and save your map. You can also add here stuff like sound effects for water birds in the background, some battlescape noises, or maybe some fire and stuff. So now our map is finished. Next up we gotta make the minimap, the preview pictures and the localization. All that will be packed up in a mod and uploaded to the Steam Workshop. But the work in the editor is now done. Load up your map one last time and center it. Make sure north is up. Choose a weather which will make a good minimap picture. Zoom out and screenshot it with F12. Now close the game. Now open up the screenshots folder and drag your screenshot to the desktop, or your already created mod folder for your new map. Now open the picture with Paint 3D. Use the cutting tool to cut away anything that shouldn't be on the minimap. Save it and open DXT-BMP. I will provide a link to the application in the description. Open up your minimap in this program and hit save as a DDS texture. The name must be minimap.tds. Now go to Steam on your hard drive, so Steam Apps, Common, Gates of Hell, Resource and Maps. Find your map folder here and copy it to your mod folder. Now drag the minimap into your map folder. Go into your map folder and create a text file. Call it battle_zones.info. Open up the file and enter this text. Change the numbers to what your minimum and max players will be. Minimum will be 2 most of the time. Go back into the mod folder and create following folders in order: Resource, Map and Multi, then move your map folder into Multi. Now go back again and create a new text document and call it mod.info. Just copy what I'm doing and add your descriptions and stuff. To make the map name show properly, we need to create a folder called localization. After doing so, we need to head back to the game directory and find the localizations folder. Open the default.pack and drag the mission.pod file to your screen. Open the file with your coding software. I personally use Visual Studio, also link in the description. Now copy these 3 lines and paste them. Edit the input so they match your map. Copy the default.pack file to your localizations folder, open it and delete everything, and add your edited mission.pod file to it. Head back to your game directory and open the mods folder, then copy-paste your mod in there. Now launch the game to see if you can activate it. If the game doesn't crash, now you made it. Congrats, you made your first map mod. Now we're gonna make a preview picture for in-game and add a preview picture for the workshop. I usually make 180p pictures for preview. These you don't need to convert into DDS, so you can just save them as JPEG in your map folder. It just needs to be called preview.jpg. The workshop preview picture needs to be exactly 512 by 512 pixels, and you need one to upload something to Steam Workshop, so you gotta do it. Once you're finished, go back to your Gates of Hell directory, open binaries, then x64 and find the call to arms workshop.exe. Just type in random stuff. I would recommend to do the right description in the Steam Workshop page, it's easier there. So, that's it.